Know what I'm going to say yet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is another amazing episode. This is the 248th rendition of Keepin It Rio. And today we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite topics with one of my all-time favorite people. I was doing a little research today, and I come to find that today's guest is everybody's best friend. And we're going to find out why over the course of the next hour or so. So without any hesitation, I want to welcome, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here, my friend, Mr. Reggie Brock. Welcome to Keepin It Rio. How is everything going for you today?
It's awesome, man. As I told you before we jumped on air, I guarantee you I've got more than I deserve, but I'm not going to complain about it. And I'm very appreciative to it and for having it. And also, it's just an honor to be here. I've watched the podcast. I've listened to you. I've watched you from afar. But being able to spend a little time with you has been good priority for me for this week to look forward to.
Absolutely. And you're going to be stuck with me moving forward. So I apologize in advance for that.
That's okay.
I'm so excited for this. And let's just kick this bad boy off. I see you've got a background or a backdrop here that's basically, I see a word that I really, truly love, which is culture. And I know that that's what we're here to talk about today. But give us a little background on what we're looking at, and we'll just run with it, my friend.
Yeah. So my whole life, Chuck, I have wanted to build something, to create something. And I've just never, my wife does not let me around anything with sharp end on it because she knows I'll tear something. I'm just not mechanical. But there's been something inside of me my entire life that has wanted to put my stamp on something. And my career, as blessed as it's been full of pivots. And so I've had this tendency, and I'm just being honest with you, something would land in me and I couldn't move from it until it got out of me. But then when it got out of me, I had a tendency to look at what was next for me. And so as a result, I never really laid much root and foundation. So I've done a lot of things and I'm proud of most of them, right? But there's not been a real level of continuity. And it dawned on me that I spent a lot of time helping other people build whatever that was. And I thought, well, this is a season of my life. I want to do that myself. And so I created this company we call Propel. And Propel is the first, in my opinion, fully integrated cultural operating system. And it's really designed to do three things. It's designed to really help teams, leadership in particular, to identify problems that are happening inside of their people's performance before it shows up on the KPI or the dashboard. Because, Chuck, by the time it hits the dashboard, it's history. It's not relevant. It's relevant, but it's not real time. And so I've always thought, my God, I can help people so much more with their performance if I could catch the problems that they're facing earlier, diagnose it, prescribe some help to it, and rather than it creating damage, because people tend to do this, they just push stuff down, they push it down, they hide it, they don't want to be whatever, and they're uncomfortable with it or whatever the reasoning was. So I thought to myself, if I can ever get people just to start being willing and honest and vulnerable and create cultures, help guys create cultures where that type of conversation is healthily accepted, man, I'm onto something. So this program kind of helps that first. How do we detect things earlier before it becomes too damaging? Second thing is, and that's all about performance, really. The second thing is, I believe when pressure strikes us, the first thing that goes is clarity. Like if you've ever been in a boat, and I don't mean that literally, but if you've ever been in a place in life and you're just constantly pressed, you're just pressed, the first thing that usually goes is our ability to discern right direction, because we're in a tailspin. Like we're just in a tailspin. And I see businesses doing this all the time. We're in a world where pressure is exhibited from every angle constantly. And if I can ever help people build companies, cultures, communities that can withstand pressure, they're going to have a company that has legacy to it that they're fighting for now. So clarity is a big piece of that. And then the final thing, the second to final thing is this. I really think that there's an opportunity to build a company that people not just want to join, but want to stay. And in roofing in particular, a lot of the roofing people that I know have just accepted the fact that they're building an Airbnb kind of business. Like people just come in, stay a short time, maybe have some fun, extract some value both ways, and then they just move on. There's no residency, no permanency in our strategy. And I tell guys this all the time that are building business. If you didn't own this, would you come here tomorrow? Like, is there enough build here to keep you coming back? So we want to help people build businesses that people actually enjoy getting up and going to every day. And because at that level, they're bringing their contribution to the table organically without being pressured and haunted every day of their life because they're just not hitting the mark kind of deal. And then the final thing that I love the most probably is this: we're taking the guesswork out of decision making. I find more and more people who get up every day and just guess their way through the day and hope everything works out. And that's a bad strategy. And so what we try to do with the system is we come in and we put some pillars in place that kind of keep us tethered to our purpose and our direction on a regular basis. And when something gets out of alignment, we feel the pain of it, and then we react to it accordingly. And so you can't do that guessing. Last thing I'll say is Forbes just did this huge article on workforce in America. And this was an interesting statistic that 4 out of 5 people employed today somewhere in the United States are going to get up tomorrow and lack clarity and direction about what they're supposed to do for that day. They're going to guess their way through it. And so we feel like this build that I'm proud of, this cultural operating system, just draws everybody to the center, that place where we're aligned, and we operate out of this collective approach to the business as opposed to having a bunch of track stars who can run far, but they never intersect and create any kind of collaboration. So that wasn't a big nutshell. That's kind of the design and the reason that this is important to me, because I really want people to understand we're better together. And then how do you create the chemistry and the right communication, the collaborations, and all those things that make that up? And this is slow, honestly, because people don't really want to put the work in. But when they do, it's game changing. And so that's kind of the mission behind the message.
I love it. You got me all fired up with your energy coming through the screen. I know anybody that's watching this right now is thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be fire. So let's dig into this. Okay. As like I've said, I've been in a couple different organizations through my career. I was in distribution prior to getting into contracting. So I've been around the block. I've seen a lot of different companies come and go. I've seen some that got huge and then just completely disappeared overnight. Mm-hmm. I've seen some that have been, steadily growing for over a decade. And I think the common theme that we see in all of these is the culture that these companies develop. And I love what you just said about a bunch of track stars that can run really fast but can't ever collaborate, because I've seen this happen many times. Yeah. So my question is this: you've got an organization, you're doing your best to build a good, solid culture, like you say, that people want to be a part of, that people are proud of. I've always said, I want you to go home and tell your family how proud you are to be a part of the team. Yep. I want you to represent our brand out in public and do all that stuff. And it's inevitable, just the way that human nature is. And I think in a lot of cases, it's got to do with false promises that maybe aren't delivered upon, maybe in a timely manner, maybe not at all. But you get people that come into the organizations, they start off great. Everybody gives you their best foot forward when they're interviewing for a job. And, oh my gosh, I'm the ultimate team player and you're going to love me and everybody's going to be my best friend. But once you get into the deal and things maybe don't start going exactly as anticipated, things can happen. People can become a little bit disenchanted with the opportunity. And that's when culture starts to break down. And then the good people that were there start to kind of turn a little bit. So what are some of these problems that you've identified on the front end that the sales manager, the production, whoever's looking at this from a step back and actually overviewing the entire thing? What are some of these initial common problems that you see that are probably the most easily avoidable, that people usually just let fester until they're no longer a small problem?
That's a great question. And I, I think the first thing that you can look for, that I look for when I go into a company, is the body is the head connected to the body? And what I mean by that is leadership really understand and connected at a tissue level with the body or their business. And here's what I have found. A lot of leaders disconnect themselves from the body, so to speak, and they just start making decisions that are right and they're visionary, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is when you disconnect the head from the body, you can't feel the pulse of the body. You don't know what's happening. You're depending, again, we go back to guesswork. We look at situations, we look at dashboards, KPIs, and we go like, oh, it's still in the green, everything's safe. What you don't realize is that there's a murmur in the heart. So I'm going to use that as an example, that because you're not attentive to it, you don't have the tools to diagnose it. You just don't even notice it. And then one day there is someone who leaves or disappears or whatever, and you're left scratching your head. So the first thing I tell owners is this: if it's not with me, you need to find a way to connect yourself back to the body, because you've got to feel what the body is experiencing. And the body has parts in it, like, sales and production and back office and front office. And I mean, they're just a plethora of them. But at the end of the day, it's hard for a leader to get a true sense of direction without feeling what his team is experiencing. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I really note, and you can stop me if you want to jump in on any of that, but I think that's a big deal. We have been coached to think that we need to, and I'm not going to call names, but there's systems out there that just try their best to keep the visionary or the leader away from the body, in my opinion. And then they start finding people who isolate them further from their frontline staff. And they create these meetings that they're not even a part of. And they're trusting the instinct of the leaders that they put over in charge of that to give them the right report. Well, what if that leader doesn't know how to read pulse either? What if that leader doesn't have the tools in his or her hand that allows them to be able to accurately predict where these people are? And so then one day we show up and there's red on the dashboard and we go like, what the heck happened? So that's something that I think most teams fail, is we diagnose problems too late. We only measure things when we have report cards to look at. I'm a big KPI guy, a big dashboard guy, but what I do and whether someone, they need to find this tool. If it's not with me, somebody else. There is a way, and you need to find ways to extract data emotionally and mentally from your people early, so it doesn't fester, grow, and develop into something that creates major damage by the time it shows up on the on your dashboards. And so I think those are two kind of instinctual things that we can learn and we can develop, and that will keep us really into. How can you manage something you really don't know?
It's a great question. And you can't effectively do it. And I think that that's exactly where we're going with that. And I see that happen so often. It's like, as the company grows, with everything being the way it is in the world now, social media, everybody's a social media superstar, and everybody's got the greatest of the great, and everybody's doing amazing. It's awesome until you realize it's a complete facade, and nobody could be having the most perfect life in the world every single day of the year, no matter how hard we want to. But I love what you say about the head becoming separated from the body. And I think that as owners, as the more success starts to develop, it's no secret with our industry, a lot of people didn't come from business backgrounds. Right. A lot of them were from, maybe shady type businesses that were, being conducted on the streets and whatnot. But not everybody's got that education. Not everybody understands exactly what's going on. And it's very easy to get separated, but it's also pretty easy to get yourself back on track if you really focus on that and you pay attention. So,
and I would say something else, and to add to that, if you don't mind. There are a lot of people, it's easy. I don't think of business as family. And I know people talk about that. I don't see it that way. And I'm not going to get into that, but I think people come into our industry with baggage at different levels. I did. Everybody does. And so we try to take and do the best with what we can with what we have. I respect that. But that is when someone can walk into your life as a business owner and not try to create. See, I don't design culture or fix people. I just help stand it up. And there's a difference. So I want to be able to help people. Listen, culture to me is personal. People are like, Reggie, what does culture mean to you? Well, for me, it means this, but it doesn't mean that's what it means to Chuck. It doesn't mean that means it doesn't. That's not the way this works. And so strategists who come in and have these kind of one size fit all programs can't create traction enough, because sometimes what fits one person doesn't fit the other. And you just have to understand, I'm not the designer of the culture. I want to, you do that. That's your job. I don't fix people. I'm not a therapist, but what I do is I have tools that you can put in their hands and ways to where you can track and monitor the healthy level of your people and your culture and go to work on your weaknesses. And so my point is, it doesn't matter what your background is, because, dude, I was a failure in so many ways, like so many ways. But what I realized is I had to surround myself with things and people that would change the trajectory of my life. I had to find people that thought different than I did. Actually, some people who annoyed me because it was so different. But I needed that bumping around on me to get me to shift trajectory and range of motion, so to speak. And so I think that, being connected to people is not a fad that passes. It has to be a continuous, intentional effort made by leadership to really know, even if you got layers of management. If I see owners who are disconnected and I'm not saying you got to go to lunch with everybody, no, but you've got to be with your tribe at a level to where there's a connectivity of tissue that they will stay with you, fight with you, and be on your side when pressure finally hits.
Man, I love that. That's going to be a reel right there. And that's going to be one that's going to get millions of views, I promise. So I love that entire, that entire side of things. You also talk a little bit about the other side, which is the sales reps and their perspective.
Yeah.
And I know that, from experience, I've been a sales rep for roofing companies. I've been a manager. I've, watched companies implode based on this as well. And the most important thing that you said, in my opinion, was you've got the people, and they not only feel able and capable, but they're willing to provide input when things are not going perfect, when they don't feel like their opportunity is optimized to the best that it can be. They don't realize, or they understand what they're looking for, but don't understand why they're not seeing it. Right. And I think a lot of great talent ends up leaving our industry before they get a chance to really realize their skill, because they don't have that. So what are some ways that people can create a culture and an environment where someone who maybe they're newer and they don't feel like they've earned the right to have that input yet, or even worse, someone that's very successful and they feel like, you know what, I'm going to shut it down because I'm going to keep all this information because, 6 months from now, I'm going to start my own deal, or I'm going to get the heck out of here. Yep. What are some of the things that you look for in people to make sure that you can find the right fits for the right companies? And, what are some of the questions that you ask those folks periodically to make sure that they're staying happy?
So here's one thing I've noticed more than anything else. I think we need to find out this part of people that we've overlooked in terms of screening, in terms of pairing to create collaboration inside of organizations. So we are very good at understanding what people do and how they do it. You know what we're not good at? Why they do it. And here's what I found. I'm now a certified coach with an organization that just focuses on motivation and wiring, right? And so what I found out is the way I'm wired is displayed in what I do and how I do it. So if I want to change an outcome, I have to start with my reasoning, that part of my brain that gets me and drives me, and the part of my output is determined by that. So we start with what I call why. Why is it that you do what you do? So, and I'm not getting into that, but we do an assessment. So we want to make for sure that we understand what motivates Chuck. So if Chuck's motivation is X, Y, and Z, and I try to find a collective of other X, Y's, and Z's, then we can start building not just incentives, but a sense of meaningful contribution that's expressed to those type of people based upon how they're motivated. Some people by money, some people by trips, some people by other things. Not everything fits everybody, right? So that's one of the first things that we do. The other thing that we do is I spend a lot of time talking about something, and this is going to be the trade secret of the night, I promise you. So what I do believe is there is ground, uncharted ground that is available to sales organizations that is right under their nose and they miss it. So what we do is we hire rabbits that run fast and hard. We're telling them to grind and to hustle. And that speed at times, Chuck, has caused them to overlook this patch of ground that is so stinking valuable that they're running over because of speed and the need to hustle. So I slow people down. That's the first thing. The second thing, the ground that I'm talking about is ground reserved for collaboration. I'm going to give you a great example. My wife and I have been married 37 years, right? And so when we were dating, we decided, we started like everybody does. You start talking about, if you get interested in each other and the relationship starts progressing, there comes a point where you have to have some serious conversations. Not where do you want to go? What do you want to eat? And, anything like that. But like, how are we going to handle money? How are we going to do, where are we going to live? All those big questions. And finally, we came to the issue of children. Did we both want children? The answer was yes. We have one son today. He's 35. We love him like you can't believe. I bring that up because of this. When Connie, my wife, and I started talking about kids, here's a reality that we faced. As much as she wanted a child, as much as I prayed about having children, I hoped about having children, Jordan, our son, would have not been brought to this earth until the two of us decided to co-create. We produced something together that we could not, do apart. So the magic in what I'm telling you is this. There are collaborations inside of businesses that are opening gates to new, fresh opportunity that nobody else sees because everybody stays on these parallel paths instead of intersecting. When we intersect, we are able to produce something together that was impossible alone. If you want an exponential opportunity to grow as a roofing company or any other business, you need to learn the magic of chemistry, bringing people together to produce something that by themselves they couldn't. Now, does that mean that, Connie couldn't have had a good life or Reggie couldn't have had a good life? No, that's not what it means. We could have run our talented lives parallel for a long time, but my son now of 35 years would not exist. There is bounty available for people who are willing to collaborate and to share themselves with one another to produce something out of that union, so to speak, that creates gain that would not have been there without the collaboration. And let me add one other thing to you on this because this is powerful.
Yes.
The way collaboration becomes the most effective is when there's chemistry. Don't have to have chemistry, but it's good to have it. And so I use this example all the time. Chemistry is about elements, right? And so with oxygen by itself is plenty, dude. I mean, it gives us the opportunity to do what we're doing tonight. Without breath, without oxygen, we would not live. Now, oxygen could say to itself, I'm just going to be oxygen, run my parallel path. I'm not going to get anybody's way. I don't want anybody to get my way. Everybody breathe and thank me later. But oxygen, whether it realized it or not, combined with another element, in this case, hydrogen, 2 parts of hydrogen, which by itself has capacity and capability. But my God, when those two elements joined forces, what did we get then? Water. So oxygen was not just for us to breathe, but it was an element combined with hydrogen that produced another life-giving source called water. So you see, you may be the most talented guy on the planet, but if you find the other element that creates that connectivity, you can produce things that the world needs, not just to satisfy your own needs, but to produce something together that, though we could have successful parallel paths, boy, when we come together, we open up another avenue of life and impact to other people that alone is impossible. I hope I didn't go too far.
No, you didn't go too far. I absolutely love that. You got me excited over here because I'm thinking about myself and I'm thinking about my own life and my situation that I'm in. And I'll be honest with you, Reggie, it's been kind of a transformation for the last 6 months or so. I brought another partner into our company that we sorely needed to kind of fill a gap that, you know, the important detail stuff that guys like me don't always think about. And we're just out having fun doing our thing. Yep. And the one thing that we focused on is our collaboration with others. We have developed relationships with people in different markets. This week alone, we did an exterior painting job, a gutter job in San Antonio. We signed a roof deal over here, and we're doing a full remodel in Dallas with the crew. Full interior. We've done full exterior painting and things like that. And these are people that want to work with us for the same reason. They say, man, you know, we couldn't do what we're doing today without you, and vice versa. And I've always believed in that. I love nothing more than having some of the younger company owners in the roofing industry give me a call and say, hey, can we go to lunch? I'd like to just kind of bend your ear a little bit and listen to what you've got to say. And to me, I'm at the point where this is my 28th year in this roofing industry. Wow. And I figure that, yeah, I know I'm only like 35 years old. I don't know how the heck this all happened, but
7 years old.
Yeah, I've been doing it for longer than I've been alive. But my new purpose is to kind of help people along the way, to develop others, help them avoid some of the pitfalls I've seen along the way as well. And boy, what an amazing feeling it is when you realize I can go to my social media and it's all compliments. It's all, hey, you know what? I need somebody to do this for me. Well, call Chuck. He's in San Antonio or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've avoided all the negativity. But when you start dealing with other people and you start building these relationships and you start getting that chemistry, like you said, it's at the point now where we're working for each other and we're working with each other. And one company and another company are going to go together. We're going to get this job together. We're going to do it. It's going to be beneficial for everybody. And I'll tell you what, my enthusiasm has gone through the roof, pardon that expression, over the last couple of months, just because I'm seeing this huge momentum that's building and I'm seeing the results that it's going to start producing, you know, in volume for us. But I also see a lot of people in our industry that absolutely refuse to talk to each other. And I use an example from a couple years ago. There's a friend of mine here in San Antonio. You probably know him, David Taggart with A5 Roofing. And before he had A5, he was living in multiple locations. They were getting ready to move out of their apartment here in San Antonio about maybe 4 years or so ago. And he posted a social media post that said, hey, would anybody in San Antonio be willing to give me a hand with this furniture? And so, of course, I was like, yeah, you know, myself and my guys will come over. We'll help you. No problem. I wanted to meet the famous Roof Poppy anyway. So this gave me the opportunity. And we did that. We had a great time. We ended up taking a picture and posting it on social media. And it was like collaboration over competition. And Hunter Ballou, of all people, I love Hunter Ballou. He posted this on one of his pages and said, look at this. You know, this is great. These guys are working together. And it was crazy. And it was shocking, Reggie, what I saw. I went to the comments and there were hundreds of comments in this one little post. I did not anticipate it was going to go viral like this. Half of the people, the ones that you recognize, the names that you see over and over again, the more successful people, they were all giving the thumbs up. And yeah, two great guys. This is awesome. But then you saw the other side of the coin, which was, I would never help my competition. You guys are weak. And, you know, I would stomp on his children on my way to the door to knock on it before him and so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, man, how terrible must life be if that's your perspective and that's the way you're going at it, especially when it's not really going to affect you in any way. I mean, I look out here in San Antonio and I told Dave, I've never competed for a job with A5 Roofing that I'm aware of. You know, there's plenty of opportunity for all of us. And if we just stay in our lane and do what we do, everybody's happier. And I think that that's That's the lesson of the day right there. And I love what you had to say about it.
It's a great, what you're saying is such a great illustration. But here's the problem, Chuck. I don't think people do that internally with their own team, so it makes it awkward trying to do it with somebody else.
Yep.
So it's really, really hard, other than maybe what people might perceive as some kind of publicity stunt. And everybody's looking to be critical generally about something.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's draining, right? But at the end of the day, it is what it is. But what I would say this is, the best work that creates work outside is first the work inside. So how do we work on our companies and build a culture that is noticeable, like where people see this as an outflow of who we are as an individual and as companies, and then it becomes natural as breathing for you to go help somebody. Like, that's not a churned manufacturing or manipulating effort on your part. That's just an outflow of who you are. And I think what people want to do, because of this whole influence culture that we're in right now, is we really have lost sight of proving what we want through our life, what we want others to believe, and starting at home. Like, even if I'm a great businessman, this is my opinion. If I do great in business, but I have a horrible life at home, I mean, there's a limp that is created in my life, right? And so, and I'm not saying people who have bad home lives, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we need to learn to build what you showed, David, in our own businesses. That's a part of culture development that is just so overly missed. And so I hope people hearing this realize that what you did is just a reflection of who you are. And when that stuff starts happening, it unlocks companies. It just really does.
Absolutely. So I guess the $1 million question now is this. We have identified that there are issues that can develop in companies with culture that can lead to huge problems. We understand that there's a need for something that can identify these and can help keep people pointing in the right direction so that everybody maintains that culture throughout. And it's a destination rather than a short stop, like you say.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the guy that's going to fix this and how we're going to go about doing this, because I believe that you've got the answer.
Well, thank you. And I mean, this has just been trial and error for me. Like, I've seen stuff. I will tell you what really caused a sore in me to go like, this is it. I'm in the fourth quarter of life. And I mean, I don't know how long that fourth quarter is, but whatever's left in me, I want it to have impact that lasts beyond me. And so finding this platform where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How do I do this? So I took for 2 years, Chuck, and I just beta tested this stuff with 4 different companies. One of them didn't last and it didn't work. And the reason for it is it was too much effort. Speed, hustle, and grind was the definers of their culture, and I just don't fit there. I'll slow people down first, and then because as we slow down and fix, we're able to accelerate faster, in my opinion. Then I started noticing, these 3 companies that were working real well, they all had exit strategies. They all were enamored by the PE opportunities now, like a lot of people are. And here's the first thing I noticed. And so I want somebody who's listening to this to hear me, because I think it's for some people tonight. Many people are eager to get involved. Not all are eager to get involved with private equity because they feel like the weight that they're carrying needs to be relieved. And if you will come and take this burden off of me and pay me along the way, it's yours. So one of the things that I want to help guys do is distribute the workload, like the weight of the business, because there's good guys out there who are trying to run great businesses, but they're just weighed down, man. Like everything on the business is on them. And so they're less likely to have to sell or want to sell or need relief if they build a culture that shares the responsibility. That's the first, and I apologize.
No worries. If you want to get a drink,
long.
watch what I'm going to do real quick. Get you a drink of water, Reggie. I got you. Ladies and gentlemen, while Reggie's enjoying a nice glass of H2O, let me tell you a little bit about my sponsor, roofer.com. I usually throw Roofer in at the end of the job here, but we're going to do it midway through the show today. It's Roofer, your all-inclusive CRM for roofing contractors, from your first point of contact with the client all the way to the end, final payment, and beyond, with reminders for years to come. Roofer is the ultimate CRM. So I ask this every week. If you're not using Roofer, what's wrong with you? And I encourage everyone to utilize Roofer. I've got a huge surprise in a couple weeks for episode 250, and that's going to be something completely different. But thank you to Roofer. They've been my sponsor for now going on 4 years.
Wow.
And I love everything they do for me. I'm decked out in their stuff everywhere I go. So there you go. And now we're back. Reggie's gotten his water, and we're ready to rock and roll and continue to spit fire. That's what happens when you spit so much fire, your throat gets dry.
Well, I coming back and finishing up kind of this topic on private equity. So I think a lot of people they're so weighted down, and because they don't know how to counterbalance the weight. They hire a bunch of people, they bring people in, but they don't allow those people to assume weight. And so when a big check comes along, it's easy to go like, great, let me out. So I think that's a battle that people face. And so one of my intentions is, how do I come in and neutralize the weight? How do we distribute the weight inside of an organization? Either you have the right people or you don't. How do we take some of this burden off of you so that one day you're not, if you sell, it'll be out of want, not have to. And so I think there's a lot of people maybe could be hearing this out of my belly tonight, so to speak, and are realizing that's them. They're just needing relief. Can I tell you this, guys? There's other ways. You don't have to sell what you've worked on your whole life to build. You just need strategy to dispense the weight. And so that's a big motivation for me with guys. I don't think that they all want to, but they think that's the utopia, is like, can I find private equity to buy me? And when you really get down to the core of it, I think what they're screaming is not for big paychecks, but just relief.
Yeah, help. That's all I need.
Yeah, just help me out. And so I think there's a better, I think there's another opportunity to look at that gives you the control back to where you're like, okay, if I want to exit or do I want to endure? And if you're able to, if you've started something, now some people start it to sell it. I'm okay with that. But if you're not one of those guys hearing me, there is a different strategy to provide relief to the weight burden that you're under, rather than just selling something. And I kind of help people figure that out. I think the other thing that I think matters is, I want people to build businesses that can really withstand pressure, because we live in that day and age. And so how do you build? Well, it starts with like building a house. Or it starts with anything, has to start with the right foundation. And what I found is that there's 6 pillars. And I learned that from, let me go back to my other 3 companies. 2 of them have sold in the last 7 months. And one of the great things that I heard said that I want to share with your audience tonight is this. At one of my companies, they were at the closing. The check was about to be written, and the private equity manager looked up at the owner that I've been working with for 14 months. And this is what he said, Chuck. He said, how have you been able to guard your culture as much as your capital?
That's the multi-million-dollar question right there, folks.
Why are you guarding your culture as much as you're guarding your capital? And this guy, and I'm gonna, if you'll allow me just a minute, I'm gonna read his response, because this
absolutely, I love this.
This will blow your. I mean, this will literally blow you away. I mean, like, his response was not calculated. It was very much. Where did this go? I'm sorry. Here it is. He said this. Sorry. I promise I'm about there.
No worries.
So here's what he said. He said, why does this company that I'm buying guard culture like capital? And this is what the owner said without even hesitation. And I was pleased to be in the room during this time. So he said this, because culture compounds. He said, the longer it's protected, the more value it creates. Think about that.
Spot on.
He said, secondly, because culture governs behavior when no one's watching. Numbers will report outcomes, but cultures determine them. And then the third thing he said that just blew me away was he said, why do we guard culture this way? Because culture, listen, is harder to rebuild than revenue. If you lose it once, your recovery costs are more than the growth ever would require. And when I heard that, I about fell on the floor because I'm like, you have now, because people talk to me about Reggie, culture's kind of soft. No, this is an evolving asset. The problem is, Chuck, most people don't build it. They hear about it, they talk about it, they read books about it, they listen to podcasts about it, but they just don't want to put in the work. And so I've taken a lot of the work out of it by giving the foundation, helping laying the proper foundation for alignment in these 6 pillars. And the other thing that I offset for these owners is they're like, Reggie, I don't need any more work to do. Like, right. I already have got too much going on. And I'm like, that's why you pay me. This is the part of the business you outsource to me that helps me to monitor the things that are going to make you healthy, prosperous, and bulletproof as a company, so that one day, if and when you decide to exit, you'll have an additional asset that most don't because you've built it. And I think that's a powerful kind of notion. The problem is very few people are ready to put the work.
Ready or willing, to be quite frank. And that is so true. And, I've talked to a lot of people who have gone through this transition, through the process of even the private equity. Todd Price was on the show last week. Yeah. That was one of the biggest ones ever. And the common theme that I keep hearing is you've got to build something bigger than a roofing company, bigger than a brand. There has to be something tangible. And this seems to be the common theme with all these success stories, is the tangible item is the people and the team that's been put together, the way that they stand together, the way that they, develop this company into what it is. And I think now we've identified that not everybody really truly wants to sell, but a lot of people are overwhelmed and they don't understand how to get out of it. So now you've created the answer. Yeah. And let's say we've got a company owner right now that's watching this and they say, well, you know what? This man makes a lot of sense. And I identify in my own company right now that maybe this is where we're lacking. Maybe this is something that we need to focus our attention on. How would someone in that situation go about finding this solution and moving on in the future and building something that's going to be worth building and worth being proud of?
Well, here's what I'd say first. If you feel it, deal with it. So if someone is hearing this, this is a moment that matters. And to explore next step is all that's asked. You don't have to have the picture drawn. You don't have to have everything lined up. Just take a next step. I do a lot of discovery work with people. And most of the time, Chuck, even after I talk to them, I don't do business with them because there's some things that they need to kind of get honed up before what we do together makes sense. And the last thing I want to do is work before it's ready, because usually, you have to redo it. And I don't want to do that. And, it's like, Reggie, help me design culture. I don't do that. And the reason I don't is it's personal. And like we talked about that just a few minutes ago. But once you kind of decide who you are, who you want to be, what motivates, drives you, okay, then we can put a plan together. And I do early assessments, and then I just have one program, dude. I don't have multiple kind of, if this don't fit, try this, because I figured out by selling to company, being a part of building a culture that's sold by far more multiple than expected because of the culture piece, I was told. I can help you do that. I can help you build that. And what it really does is help you put your future back in your own hands. Meaning, if you want to exit, you can exit. If you want to expand, you can expand. I will say one last thing. The biggest trouble I'm seeing with private equity right now in particular is they're bringing and trying to merge cultures too fast.
Yep.
So you have 4 or 5 companies that grab up a lot of land space, geographics, but you try to, because you've built a common platform, you think that means people are going to connect with each other. They don't. I just literally hung up the phone before this call with a guy who's just gone through a private equity purchase. And he said this looks so good on paper, Reggie, but we're 3 months into this and we hate each other's guts. And the reason is they're just so different than us. Now, people with that much money, you would think they would have a little bit of consciousness about them to go like, now, wait a minute. I know we're buying the assets, we're buying all this stuff and the geography involved, but how are these people going to be together? Because now it's not a matter of 4, 5, 6 different cultures getting along. It's how do you make 6 cultures become one? And that's what I feel blessed enough to be a part of in building. And so they can reach out to me or find someone. And I'm not, this sounds like I'm saying something I don't mean. I don't think I'm the only guy out who's dialed into this. I just think I understand roofing and businesses that are associated, especially in home services space, probably like few others in terms of being able to talk to people and coach people at this level. And so, I'm more than happy to have a conversation just to kind of kickstart. I like to find out where people are, kind of what resonated with them through a conversation like this. They've heard most of these people are spent when it comes to products and services and different kind of providers of those. They've gone through them all and they've never landed. So now they're like, well, maybe something, I need to work on something else. And that's kind of where I come in. So I'm happy to have any conversation with somebody just to kickstart things, and we can see where it goes from there. But the last thing on that you asked that I'll say is this: there usually needs to be outside influence in this. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't have a dog in your fight. I don't. So I'll go into a company and I have no vetted interest other than how do I help these people build frame that holds up under pressure? So I don't care who's mama's, daddy's, what, I don't care. I don't see that any of the political drama, the, relational issues. I don't have a dog in the fight. And so if you have somebody inside your company that you're trying to help manage this, it's harder. And the reason it's harder is because they do have a dog in the fight. And they do have vested interest that I don't. I'm just trying to help you fix something. And the personality side of it doesn't really affect how I do what I do. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I got a client in Kentucky. Tuesday, I had a big group meeting with their team. I do 2 group meetings a month with each of their teams, for each team for an hour each meeting. And when we got done with it, I could see there was some tension in the room because we exposed some nerve, right? Like there was we got to the heart of the matter on some stuff. And there was a guy that had just joined the team. He went to his leader and then they went to the owner and said this: Reggie I felt like he was talking to me like I was a 2-year-old. And so, and it wasn't that I was mean or anything like that. He just said the information I was given, it would be like information you give to a 2-year-old. That was kind of his deal. And I said to the leader, I said, what'd you do? He said, I told him, be careful. And I said, bad advice. Is he disrupting anything? No. Then the door has been open for him to start releasing things. I don't need 5 stars on everything I do. My goal is, how do I get people to open the door, let me in so we can do work? He opened the door. And so even the leader's the owner went like, oh, I thought I needed to fix something. I said, keep your filthy hands off of it. This is what we were looking for. You don't have to fix things that don't need fixing. And so that's kind of what I do. I get it. I say this jokingly, but it's the truth. I'll generally know your team better after 30 days than you do now. Because I ask.
I think that's so valuable. And I love that outside perspective because you're absolutely right. Problems do not get resolved internally because of the emotion that's involved in it.
Yeah.
and nobody wants to be wrong in that situation. And I totally get that. So this is huge. And this is something that I think probably 90+% of the businesses in our industry and in the world probably could utilize a little bit of help from.
Yeah.
And I think that's outstanding. You're going to help change you're going to change the culture of an entire industry, dang it. And I'm happy that I get to be around to kind of see this go, because I know how passionate you are about it. I know how much work you've done. I do have one final thing I'd like to ask you before we start to kind of wind down the podcast. We're 50 minutes in, and it's been an amazing quick 50 minutes.
Yeah,
I could probably do 50 hours, but we'll start kind of heading down the path here, and this will leave room for an invitation for a future visit as well. But you've got some events coming up that you're going to be speaking at. I know next week in particular. If you've got anything that you'd like to plug right now, this is a great opportunity. I'll cut this reel and make sure it gets out there, and do whatever we can to help promote our industry and the people that do what they do to make it better.
Well, next week I'm with April Hall and at SRC. Chuck, this is the first conference I ever went to. So I feel like, and she was doing conferences when conferences weren't cool, right? I mean, she laid frame, and I've always been an admirer of April's. And when I was given the opportunity to go, I'm sitting on a panel there with John Sinek and Dan Walrick and a couple of other guys. And I'm really looking forward to that. And if you've never been to the event, it's one to where it's not so big that you just lose connectivity with the rooms that you're in. You can't remember where you're going. You go to some of these conferences and there's just so much. That's not the way this thing's built. And this has always been a conference where operators come to really learn and grow. And so if you're anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or anywhere, I think, and you're looking for a conference to go to, this would be a great one to be there. I'll be there Monday through Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with some old friends that I hadn't seen in a while, meeting some new ones. And the other thing I would say is I'm a big Chuck Tokey fan. And Chuck, as you know, he owns Top Rep. And that event coming up the weekend after, actually Monday and Tuesday of the following week, I think the 15th and 16th. And I'm, man, look, there's some dates that you mark as important. Like, I have been wanting Chuck to invite me to speak forever, and he just never. And so we've been friends but this is a high fueled event, and I'm going to be speaking to the leadership group there on culture, some of the things that we've talked about today. So if you're in the South Carolina area, Myrtle Beach area, they still have tickets available. I'll be there, and I would love the opportunity to meet any of you in person. So if you do go, please find me and let's connect.
Absolutely. And I do throw an open invitation out right now to Chuck Tokey as well. I know he's an Ohio guy, much like myself. I've got the old Brutus Buckeye back
there
here. That's a guy that I have not had the opportunity to have on the podcast to really speak with that much at length at all. So there's an invite to you, my friend, as well. Yeah. I appreciate that sincerely. And I look forward to seeing how this is going to take off, Reggie. I have a strong feeling that you are about to make a huge impact in the world. And I think that your life's work and your decision to say, you know what, I want to build something here. I think it's all going to pay off hugely for you. And most importantly, it's going to help so many people for years and years to come to build that culture, to grow their companies in areas where maybe they struggle. Maybe it would be something that would even be a death blow, and you're going to prevent that from happening. So
I hope so, man. And that's it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on, and it's an honor to be here. And I look forward to seeing you in person soon, and us being able to hang out a little bit. And but I am very appreciative, Chuck.
Absolutely. Now, it wouldn't be Keeping It Rio without one final segment here.
Let's go.
And I reached out to the fans today, and I said, I'm having Reggie Brock on the show. I'd like to ask a unique question that this man could answer. And I had a couple people reached out to me privately. You're a very, very popular man in the industry, and apparently you've got quite a few things that are pretty interesting about yourself. But there was one in particular that caught my attention, and this gentleman actually called me to bring this to my attention. So there was a fan His name was JB, maybe Jay Bradley, may just be some random guy named JB. And JB was wanting to know the answer to the question, does Reggie fold towels at his house? And I don't know what that means, but I was supposed to find out the answer. So now you're on the spot. I hope it's nothing dirty or vulgar.
No, God,
I don't think it is. But
no.
What's the story?
So when my wife and I first married, I desperately wanted her approval. And my wife is wired much differently than me. And she's always been there. I mean, like, it's the greatest gift I've ever had. But when we first got married, my dad was one that always validated me, like, over and above, like, you're the greatest thing in the world kind of guy. And so she wasn't like that with me. So one day I came home early from work and she hadn't made it home yet. And so I saw a pile of towels in the dryer. And I thought, I'm going to fold these towels for her. And I folded them, Chuck, and I set them on the couch where I knew when she walked in, she would see it, because I just wanted her to validate me. Like, you're so awesome, Reggie. Well, she walks in, and for 15 minutes, she's just, changing clothes, starting to cook dinner. And now I'm fuming, dude. I'm like,
look on the couch. Come on.
Right. And finally, I just went, are you not going to say anything? And she said, what do you mean? I said, do you not see those towels on the couch? And she said, yes, I see the towels on the couch. I said, do you think they folded themselves? And she said, well, no, I think you did. And she said, and the reason I hadn't said anything is you folded them wrong.
Oh, that's how it always ends up.
And so I'm like, I very rarely fold towels ever. Actually, I learned to correctly fold them, so we're all good now. But that's the towel story. I thought you were going to ask me my Mark Cuban story. That's the one I'm asked the most. So,
all right. Well, now that you've kind of opened the door, let's do one more. Tell me the Mark Cuban story.
This is quick. So back in the early mid 90s, when the internet really kind of took off, people started building websites, and I'll condense this. I had the opportunity to go in with a friend of mine who had a web design business at the time. And back then, Chuck, you could sell a website for lots of money because people didn't really understand what happened. So one of his clients, I'm a big college football, basketball fan, and one of his clients with the Southeastern Conference, which was in Birmingham, Alabama at the time. So long story, he brought me in kind of as a sales consultant, and they were having the men's basketball tournament in New Orleans that year. And so rather than building a website, I told them, why don't we build a website? We'll put these crawlers along the bottom that advertise your advertisers. And so rather than you pay anything, I'll go raise the money from them. And they were like, that is fantastic. So I went to Mercedes, General Mills. I mean, all these major companies at their bequest, and I raised $425,000 for that 4-day basketball tournament on crawlers. Like, today you would look at it and go like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. But it caught Mark Cuban's eye. And he picked up the phone and he tracked me down through the SEC. We met in Dallas. He had just started basically broadcast.com, I think it was what it was called at the time. There may be AudioVox is what it was called. I think the first version of it was. And he was just kicking that off. He called me. The owner I went over there with, we got back in the plane, and the owner says to me, that's the stupidest person I've ever met. His idea is ridiculous. So what he wanted to do was he wanted to pipe all of the IU basketball games over the internet, like I did with the SEC, and then just charge sponsors for it so that the fans could watch the game free. Great idea. He calls me and says this, Reggie, are you in any contractual agreements with your this guy? I said, no, sir. He said, but I said, he doesn't want to do it with you. And he goes, this is what Cuban said. He said, it ain't him I want, it's you. Why don't we partner 50-50 and do this together? Now I had my son at that time was 2 years old. And I was nervous, honestly. He wasn't going to pay any money. He didn't have any money at that time, but we would split it 50-50. I said no. And this is what he told me. This is the Mark Cuban punchline for me. He looked at me. So when I watch him on Shark Tank, my fanny draws up still every time. He said this. He said, "You're going to die with this remembrance." I said, "What?" He said, "This will be the worst financial mistake you ever make in your life." And he hung up. 4.5 years later, he sold to Yahoo for $5.7 billion on what he pitched me to be a partner with him on. And here I am today selling roofs.
Well, hey, I wouldn't have it any other way, right?
Me either, brother. Me
What
either.
would I do with billions of dollars? I'd probably just get in trouble. So
Yeah, me
that's
too.
God's way of keeping me straight. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a perfect way to end episode 248 of Keepin' It Rio. A heartbreaking story of Mark Cuban reaching out, and he ended up being
Reggie
right.
being Reggie.
So, Reggie, I appreciate you taking the time to be here, my friend. You are absolutely a star. This has been the most fun hour that I've had in many, many weeks. And I'd like to extend an invitation somewhere down the road to do this again. Can't wait till I run into you in person and we can take that selfie. I think the one we got is a couple years old now. So need to refresh it. We're both getting younger and much more handsome.
Better looking.
And yeah, that's it. So everybody that watches Keepin' It Rio, I appreciate you guys. It's a worldwide phenomenon. I joke and I say millions of people will see it. It might be 100 years from now and we may be long gone, but I have a feeling that 1 million people are going to see it at some point. And if we just keep going, the support that you guys give me, it means the world. Some days I don't feel like doing this, but today definitely wasn't one of those days. And this is actually going to come out the day after SRC. So to everybody that saw Reggie at the event, he had a blast. He enjoyed talking to you guys. Right. And it was probably the most awesome event that he's ever been to. So thank you guys for that. And
hey, Chuck, keep it Rio, baby. Keep it Rio.
You hit me with the tag item right there. I was going to say the final thing is the corny tagline, which is keep on keeping it Rio. So
that's it.
So next week, you guys, we'll see you again. And Reggie, stick around for just a second after I end this. And thank you all for watching. We appreciate it.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payments in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.